continue it longer than it originally was planned. Started seeing each other, and there was never a period of time where we were kind of like dating other than that first day or two. We pretty much turned into an instant couple. I'd never met anybody in my life that I just instantly felt like I was in the exact same groove with.
You instantly gelled with her. So who?
Almost.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, almost instantly. Yeah.
Almost instantly. So who knew first that it was going to go the distance? You're like a almost instantaneous couple, but then someone starts to think, okay, what's the next step here? Because that's usually what happens in relationships. So who knew that for you two?
She knew that. Yeah, she knew that. She says that right away I was, quote, a keeper. And
yeah.
And was already having thoughts. The fun story that I like to tell is about 3 months into dating her, I took her to meet my mom across the state. And within minutes of meeting my mom, she says, "Scott's going to marry me. He just doesn't know it yet."
Nice. Nicely done, ma'am. Way to claim what you want. Wow. Yeah. So were you taken aback? Did you hear her say that?
I heard her tell me about it afterwards.
Oh, okay.
So I didn't hear it. And it was, again, I was looking for a wife. I was hopeful that this relationship was, but I'd had bad experiences in the past, and I was just nervous. Is this really too good to be true? When's the hammer going to drop? Is this too good to be true? Because, I had a bit. So, I was always hopeful from the beginning, and it turns out that, we're meant for each other, and it works very well. And any of that was just baseless fear.
Baseless. What the listeners don't know, and I want to kind of let them in on this, is that you guys are in an interracial relationship. And I have to ask you, was this the first for you? And were there any blessings or difficulties that came with it, being in an interracial relationship?
Well, you don't see a lot of, white men, black woman couples as much as the other way around.
Right.
But it wasn't the first. The girl that had passed away before was from Jamaica. She was black, so I was used to that. When I first talked to my wife on the phone before our first date, she had asked if I'd ever dated a black woman before, because she had had some experiences with guys that would like to go on a date with her, but necessarily wouldn't want to bring her to see their family or their friends. And so, she'd had some negative, experience with that.
Right.
And she wanted to make sure this was done, something like that. No, I wasn't going to have any problem with that. And we don't really have a lot of real difficulties.
Good.
In terms, we get strange looks from people. Sometimes most people just don't care. They just walk by, they don't care. Or if they do notice, maybe they'll notice that it looks a little unusual, and then they don't care. But every once in a while we'll get, disapproving stares. A lot of times from old people, not always. Probably one of the ones that was difficult was, we went to, that was actually Outback Steakhouse. And a place is not in business anymore, the one we went to, but we sat down, and 30 seconds later the waiter came and asked if we would want to move to a better table. And he'd done that right after talking to the people who we were sitting with, which was a whole cluster of old white women.
Uh-oh.
Right. And so it was very, very, very obvious that they were uncomfortable and they didn't want to sit with us. And rather than tell them, no, I'm sorry, this is where we sat them.
Or to get over it. Exactly. Get over it.
They asked us if we could do it. So we refused to move. We ended up talking to the manager. The manager, comped our meal. But truthfully, I didn't want a free meal. What I wanted was for them to do the right thing and stand up to the racism when it was put in their face, instead of just going along with it.
I think that's what a lot of people just want. Is it's simple as that. And I really like the thing you said about a lot of people don't care. Everybody's living their life. Yep. They don't care who you're with or who you love. And I wish that attitude was more pervasive, but it seems like it is spreading. I feel like we are a more inclusive society in many ways from, when I was growing up, and probably for when you were growing up too.
Yeah. We had a fun one when we went to the mall once, and we saw, every once in a while, maybe every few weeks we'll see a couple that looks like us. And we saw 3 or 4 couples, all within a 20-minute period. I remember turning to my wife and saying, was there a club meeting and we weren't invited? No one told us about it? And, so now we refer to, our racial configuration as club members. We'll say, oh, look, there's another couple of club members over there.
Club members are meeting, guys. We need to get the memo. Okay, I like that. That's a nice, fun way. It's a nice, light way to look at that. So, okay, you guys I like the thing that DJ said to your mother about, hey, this guy's my husband. He just doesn't know it yet. So it's time to get married. She seems to have known it, like you said, 3 months into the relationship. How long did it take you to come to that decision? And the reason I ask is because I have a lot of clients and girlfriends who are always having this conversation on a loop about how long is too long and am I wasting my time? And I would love the male perspective of your decision making and that process. How long did it take you to know?
Well, you've pointed out I'm a software engineer, and I look at things sometimes a little too analytically.
Right?
And this is part of what happened. Part of it is I'm gun shy, and I'm hopeful, but I'm still nervous. But the other part and probably the bigger part was, I invented this timetable in my head. And the timetable said, the best way to do this is to date for a year and then make sure that works. And then move in together and live together for a year and make sure that works. And if then after that period passes, you should know whether you want to be married. And so I kind of was sticking to this timetable in my head. Well, DJ was ready to get married long before that.
Right.
2 years was way too long. And these were arbitrary lengths of time. I could have said 3 months and 3 months, or 5 years and 5 years, which would have left me without a wife. But she was trying to give me hints. She played the song, if you ask me, I'm ready, and I'm completely oblivious in that.
Oh my gosh! All right.
So I'm sure that was driving her nuts.
Right.
So about a year and a half into it, we're already moved in together, and we're just going and visiting on the beach, and we're sitting, and we're kind of quiet, and I'm holding her, and it's really peaceful, and I'm thinking that I'm going to be married to this person, and it was just, I understood that was a truth. I am going to be married to this person, and I realized that just poked like putting a needle in the balloon of my timetable. What's the point of waiting on an artificial length of time that you set forward when you know already? What's the point? And so then I ended up proposing right there on the spot. I just blurted it out. I just stood up and looked at her, and I asked if, I kind of wish I would have taken a little bit of time and put together something a little fancier. But at the moment, I was just really feeling it.
Okay. Okay.
I didn't want to wait another day. I realized I'd already waited too long.
Oh.
And I didn't want to wait another day. It had to be now.
Oh.
And so I just asked right there on the spot. So yeah, it took about a year and a half, which is probably about a year longer than it had to.
I love your honesty here, Scott. And so women out there that have asked me this question, Monette, you've asked yourself this question. We all have wondered about this. Men sometimes might have this crazy timetable that they're not sharing with us in their mind about what it takes for a relationship to be, to be valid, and for them to think that it's worthy of moving forward. Now, Scott didn't ever have a doubt, really from the beginning, that DJ was the right mate for him. They had that experience of Eros and quickly falling into each other very quickly in the relationship, but he had his linear idea and timetable. And so maybe that's an answer for some of you guys out there. And what I think we learn from this is that a direct conversation about expectations and intention and ideas of where the relationship is going is okay. I think a lot of us tiptoe around that. So thank you for letting me kind of touch on this here, Scott, because I think we're worried to push away the person that we love, whether it's a guy, a girl, whomever it may be, that has the idea of the timetable, but we still need to advocate for our own needs. So it's important to know what it is you want and understand and have a conversation. So I'm really glad that Scott has enlightened us, because I've always wondered what's going on in their head. So now we know what is going on in their head. So you guys get to the marriage stage, and you've been married for now, is it 5 years?
Yeah, a little over 5 years.
A little over 5 years, which is not exactly newlywed, but it's still new in my view, especially considering the show I did last week with the 20-year marriage. Does it take a while to adjust to a new person in your life, and a whole new person, period, because you come from a whole different situation? How is that adjustment for you?
Well, in this particular case, it was an extremely easy adjustment because, like I'd said before, we just clicked. Clicked like we were the same person. And so it was very easy. We were instantly comfortable, and that had never happened to me ever before. Both of us had been married before to the wrong kind of people for us. And we needed, the right sort of person. And, and when we met each other, I think that we started to see that the other person was the kind of person that we needed, and it fed the needs with us and the wants. And sometimes those needs are not always positive. Sometimes you need to be kicked in the butt, right?
Amen.
So when I say needs, I really mean, what you need in life. And I think that we are very compatible in that way. And so that made it very easy. Now, that may not be easy, with every couple, but in our case it was, So we'd both been married. I was from, a very emotionally abusive marriage before, and I needed, somebody to believe in me, and someone to be there for me, and somebody that was interested, and someone who saw my worth. And that's funny because DJ's dating profile was from a nickname from a song called Lady of Worth, right? And, that's, she needed someone to see her worth. I needed someone to see my worth. And so we don't have a lot of common interests. We don't have the same hobbies. People look, when they start to, look for a companion, they look for, we both like to go parasailing. We both like to do this. DJ and I have very little in common in terms of actual interests, other than some TV shows. But what we have is very, very similar ways of looking at things. Same way of looking at things, the same way of approaching problems, the same way of, if we get into an argument, every couple gets into arguments. There's days where we don't want to look at each other.
I understand.
Because that's human. That's human, and that's the way people are.
Indeed.
But we know how to resolve that. We know how to resolve it like adults and talk things through. And we both do things and look at things in very similar ways. And I think that's what you want when you're looking for somebody. Somebody that, is somewhat of a mirror of you. And, they say opposites attract. I don't know if that's true. I think that's, very similar people walk along the same path.
And for you and DJ, that is very much true. And I think an incredibly salient point here that you just made, Scott, in regards to having similar ways of thinking versus common interest. Because in my case, I'm very, very different from the person that I am with, but it works. And so, people wouldn't look at us and say, hey, you guys are a match, okay? But for whatever reason, at this time in our life, it works. And so I really understand that, and people can bring out the best and counterbalance things. So I think that's very wise advice, listeners. You're looking for somebody and you're in the dating part of your life, in that Eros part where you're looking to mate. Look for somebody that can walk with you in life, that doesn't just have your favorite color in common, okay? I think that's really, really smart, which kind of dovetails because Scott gives great advice, like I said. And what a lot of people don't know about you, Scott, is that you're a bit of a matchmaker, in my opinion.
Well, I said this to you before, but, we're matchmakers, but, just as often we'd be match unmakers.
Match unmakers? What do you mean by that?
Well, maybe we'll find people that we would like to see together, but sometimes you'll find a friend who is with somebody that's toxic for them or not right for them, or there's mismatched expectations. And as a good friend, you're going to want to help them see that and understand that. What we really want for any of our friends or family is the best for them. So, I would say that we would just try to give advice from our point of view, for whatever it's worth, of what we think is best for the person.